There comes a time when a challenge presents itself, and I think this is one of those times. So we're going to be covering a conversation today between Demonmama and Hanz of Harkir, something along those lines. Hanz has asked me in the past to look at some of their stuff, and of course we're all familiar with Demonmama on this channel. Boy, I don't think this was a conversation that went super well. This is going to be a test of patience. That's what it is. It should be of no shock to anybody that I find a lot of Demonmama's conversations insufferable. And I'm generally somebody that has, in my opinion, like a pretty decent amount of patience. But I find a lot of them to test that patience and make it very difficult to watch. But I mean, a lot of the conversations on the platform are like that. So this isn't a problem that's specific to Demonmama. However, man, this is just such a bad conversation. Okay. So the plan for this, I'm using a mouse, so forgive me for my poor drawing skills. Should not be indicative of my artistic ability. It's just I'm using a mouse. Enough talking, enough chatting. Let's get into it, huh?
Who's ready? Who's ready? It's time. We do a little debating.
He's a bit hypey. My normal energy level is ridiculously high. Well, that's good. Good to hear it's not Coke, you know, because that's never a good thing.
Hello, hello. You are live. How are we doing?
Why? Hello, my friend.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
I'm doing.
Seem pretty hyped for this, huh?
Oh, I mean, I'm excited. I just want to have a good discourse.
I don't believe that at all. Oh no!
Yeah. All right. So.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah. Where do you want to start?
I mean, I don't know. We can start anywhere. Like, you're the one who put up the video and put up the stream and whatever. We can start wherever you'd like.
Of
it's your call.
course.
Look at that! Demonmama's being so nice. We'll start wherever you like. That's not bad at all.
Let's start with the olive branch. Ready? I think we both want to improve education, right?
Okay, so we want to improve education. Good.
And I would be in favor of things like, say...
Sure. Okay. Wow. This conversation is going so good. Both of them agree. They definitely want to improve education. So I'll put 2 check marks there. Great. That's good. I'm sure this will be a wonderful conversation.
No homework, better training for teachers, smaller class sizes, like more options, like not just like the memorization box, like some people in chat have like said. I think there's a lot of ways of currently fixing education, but I think where we differ is that I still believe in mandates for some flavor of education, one of these types.
So they disagree on mandates, okay?
Well, yeah, because we have it appears we have very different sort of perceptions on how the state should be involved in these sort of things.
Okay, so give me.
And I have a problem with a state demanding that children have to go to a school, especially a school system that's deeply, deeply flawed.
So she has a problem with states mandating that children go to a school, especially one that is deeply, deeply flawed. Let's remember that exact wording.
So unless the school is quick question, would you be okay with mandates if school was perfect?
And he stops himself, which I really like, because he was going to say, like, even if schools were perfect, like, you still wouldn't... Here are 2 ways of phrasing things. Now we're going into rhetoric mode here for a second. Saying, like, so you wouldn't blah, 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 blah as like a statement. So like, so you would only be okay with it if blah, 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 blah. Like it's worded in a way that's very difficult. It's kind of very prickly of a statement. So rather than wording a question that's almost framed as if it were a statement or as if it was like a gotcha, if you just ask a more pure form of a question, which is what Hanz switches to here, I think that's a better way rhetorically to approach things, and it's going to keep tension from building up. Now, tension will be built up through other actions of both of these people throughout the conversation. So I just think it's important to highlight wherever I can, like a good rhetorical decision, which I would say that was.
Quick question. Would you be okay with mandates if school was perfect?
No.
So Demonmama's problem in the abstract is specifically on mandates. So I'm going to go ahead and put a big circle around that in red, and I will announce that it's red for my fellow colorblind folks who may be out there. This is red. So yeah, the problem is only with mandates, because it would even apply if the school was perfect. Okay, I feel like that's an important thing to note. I am thankful that Hanz pointed that out really, really quickly, because what this is doing is it's isolating what the problem is. So Demonmama's problem is not necessarily that the school system as it is now is imperfect, or at least that's not where he is going to focus for the rest of the conversation. It is going to be about mandates specifically, right? Because if we're looking at this as a formula, so like we have one variable that's going to be schooling. So school, we could say, bloop, 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 school. And we had that plus here, plus mandates, which I'll put in red, because again, this is our main problem. Mandates, which I'm just going to abbreviate as man, pardon to the feminists at home. So if we're talking about school and mandates, the problem is not necessarily on the school, because even if we multiplied school here, as if it were a math equation, even if we multiplied school by a variable that we'll call x, which is going to be perfection, even if we did school times perfection, the mandate is still a problem. Demonmama does not want the mandate in there. So that means that we could look at this whole school thing and say, we probably don't want to talk about the school thing here, because it wouldn't even matter if the school thing was perfect. Instead, we want to focus on the mandate part, because the mandate part is where they're going to disagree.
Okay, so then that point doesn't matter.
I mean, wait, what do you mean? What do you mean that point doesn't matter?
He doesn't give a ton of insight into where his focus is here, but Demonmama's statement that especially a school system which is imperfect or deeply flawed, her focus on deeply flawed or imperfect is not important, because that part of the equation doesn't matter. Again, even if we were to multiply school here by this perfect variable x, that would not change the solution of this equation. If we were to continue writing this equation here, we could do equals okay. And the answer is no. So it wouldn't matter how much we change this variable here with the school. The mandate is the problem. So he's saying any appeal you're making to an imperfect school system is not going to be very important. To be fair to Demonmama, she says, especially if the school system is imperfect. But also to be fair to Hanz, it doesn't really matter how perfect the system is, because he quickly isolates just the variable of mandates by saying, well, even if it's a perfect school, you still wouldn't care.
You said like you had a problem with state mandating like imperfect schools, and asked if you'd be okay with the state mandating.
Yeah, no, I said especially when they're imperfect. But okay, yes, so I don't really believe the state should, or the state has a right to force people to do something that is something like education.
The state cannot do something cannot mandate something like mandate education. Okay. I should just be using a notepad, but I'm choosing to be a difficult hoe. That's what I'm doing. I'm being a difficult person.
I think you can make a more salient argument for something like vaccines, where it's a viral vector, it's a force of nature that there's nothing that we can really do about, that people spread to other people.
States can mandate something like a vaccine.
So I know the first thing people tend to go to on this, and I've seen this online, is would you support the state doing vaccine mandates? I think that's a really complicated question, much more in depth. On a larger scale, I'd say no, but that's because a vaccine has to do with spreading a disease to other people, and vaccines are largely valuable not just for the self, but for stopping a disease that's killing people. I don't think we can make that argument for school.
Okay, and that's at least in part because it's killing people.
I would disagree. I would say that a society where 15% of the population not knowing how to read or write, in a society where it's virtually necessary to exist in society, I would say that is absolutely atrocious. I think that like.
Oh, I agree.
Okay, so.
But I agree with you.
So we had a point of agreement. Let's go ahead and note it, because if you know one thing about your boy Booksmarts is that I love agreement. Let's go ahead and bring it way back up here to the big points. So, and I would disagree. I would say that a society where 15% of the population not knowing how to read or write, in a society where it's virtually like necessary to exist in society, what a fucking wordy statement, I would say that is absolutely atrocious. Okay, so a society where 15% of the population doesn't know how to read or write, where it's necessary, so 15% cannot read and read/write. And instead of atrocious, which I feel like is loaded language, I'm going to say it equals bad. Okay, we'll say that's bad. All right, and we got both of their approval on that one, so I'm interested with where we go here. Clearly, the solution is not going to be to mandate such a thing, but it is going to be to, I don't know, do something. We want to improve education. We agree that 50% of a society where people can't read or write, where that's necessary, is really bad. Where do we go from here, I wonder?
Okay, so if we agree with that, then my question is, I do not see any way that we can improve schools to the point where children will choose schools, or their guardians will choose schools, depending on like if we say the guardians are oppressing the kids as well. If people will choose to go to school over literally anything and everything else they can do, how can we make school literally the best?
I think that's like a bit of an odd like hypothetical to set up.
You're setting up this idea where we need to, like, what you're kind of putting Demonmama in the situation of doing is proposing a way to make school better than any other option that a kid could possibly consider. This is not looking for any kind of middle ground. This is putting her in a very difficult spot. And so I kind of understand her not liking this. A better alternative would have been like, okay, like a question. So like, how can we make school a better option like 80% of the time or 70% of the time? Like the problem is like when you set up something where school has to be better than every other option basically all the time, it's like, well, that's not really feasible. And you know that's not feasible, which is why you're presenting that as like a question to Demonmama. So this is already a point where I'm gonna say I kind of don't like this from you. So I'm gonna put a note here. This is bad from you. This is bad, Hanz. Bad, Hanz. No. Yes, because her position is batshit. You know what? Your mama's batshit, Hanz. I don't care what your fucking personal opinion is about her position. I don't care about that at all. I also don't care that you think that that's necessary for her system to work. You're going to have to make this something that we eventually get to. We have to ease into these sorts of things. Like, it's not very good faith of you to immediately jump into this. There are ways of easing into this, right? So you could start by saying, I think that it's difficult to have it be an optional thing because there's so many other options that whether it's children or their parents or their family or communities would pick over school. And I think that school should be a priority, which is why I want to mandate it, because there are often a plethora of other options available to students and to parents that they will pick in lieu of school. And we've seen this historically in the past, maybe if you actually are researched on this, right? So there are other ways to ease us to this question, or that would make this question much more palatable, but you don't do the work of doing that. You kind of just jump to this immediately, and that's what's making it really jarring. So no, brother, I think this is not good from you.
So you stated that 15% of our society being illiterate and whatever, and I can't remember what the other thing that you said was, is really bad. I agree with you 100%. I just don't think that the solution is mandatory schooling. I don't think that mandatory schooling helps at all.
I think that this is a dumb point from Demonmama. Mandates are not the solution. Okay. Enlighten me. What is the solution?
I think that using that there's so many ways,
and then you say that there are so many ways.
If you can't imagine an alternative way besides threatening kids or their parents to get them to participate in school, I think that demonstrates the problem with the schooling system as it currently exists.
Like, if you have to force people to go, hey buddy, maybe your thing is fucked. Like, maybe it's not a good solution if we have to force everybody to go and they won't pick it. I think, like, if irrespective of what I think of Demonmama, fair point. How are we going to address this?
School is like miserable for people, for a lot of people, especially neuroatypical people. And I say this as somebody who is not only neuroatypical, but also succeeded very well in school, and also grew up in like a cult.
We could have done without that. I don't know if that's necessarily necessary, but that could just be my taste.
I don't think that mandatory schooling addresses any of the like meaningful problems that we have with education. All it does is mean that there are punishments for the child and their family for choosing to not, or deciding not, that they don't want to endure that system.
Okay, so let's like handle these separately. The first one is that we have a problem with the schooling system. Again, I agree with you. I don't think that's what we're debating on.
Remember, like we addressed over here, Demonmama really doesn't care, or it doesn't impact her decision if the schooling is even perfect. So any appeal to like fixing the school thing, like, well, we're not really talking about fixing school, because even if we fixed all the problems of school and we had perfect school, the mandates are the problem here, because Demonmama would be uncomfortable mandating even if it was a perfect school. If I was Demonmama and I was being super good faith, maybe what I would say in response to that is having the perfect school would make mandates unnecessary. But that's very different than being against the mandates, right? So like, I think this would be helpful for her to clarify, and perhaps she will later. I don't quite recall. But yeah, so maybe her idea is that if the school was perfect, mandates wouldn't be necessary. But that would have been a nice point to have kind of made clear way back when we made this statement over here, because that's what Hanz is looking at. So I understand where Hanz is coming from. The school thing is not really important because the mandates is still a problem there.
Again, I agree with you. I don't think that's what we're debating on. You said that the school is bad for neurodivergent people. I am very much in favor of like improving school for people who either think differently or have anything else that makes school harder. I am all for improving it. I still want to mandate them to have school.
So he's okay with making school better. Great. What a guy. How progressive of him. But separately, mandate anyways. Okay. And again, this comes down to their key disagreement here is on the mandating thing. If she says it's not important to her argument, she shouldn't keep bringing it up. I need to respond to the points that she's making. Yeah, that's fair. I'm not shitting on you for responding to that. I'm just like explaining it. What you have to realize is that's from your perspective, Hanz, right? So from your perspective, it appears the way that I've written it here, that if the school is unimportant, then we can set that aside and we can focus on the mandates and have a conversation about the mandates. Remember that after you made this point clear, and we got this little line of dialogue here, you immediately jumped into this fucking nonsense, right? So why did I criticize you for having this point that was fucking nonsense? I criticized you for this rhetorical fault on the fucking nonsense because you're killing any momentum that you had coming from here and going down to here. You stopped all progress with this stupid statement that you made, right? So that's the reason that I had a problem with this, and that's hurting your ability to keep her focused on your perspective of the argument. And in your perspective of the argument, the school thing is not important. We need to focus on the mandates. But you're going to shake her focus and you're going to put her into defense mode when you state something like what you did here, that you cannot make the school the better option when compared to all other options. And how would you do this? I understand that that's your attempt to force the conversation on mandates, but it was done so shittily that you're hurting your cause, which is to focus on the mandate thing, right? That's why I said that there are much better ways that we could have gotten to this point, or much easier ways that we could have slipped into this, right? And your choice to just fist in dry the way that you did right here was a mistake. And we're seeing the repercussions of this mistake when we get over to here, right? So now you're going to struggle with this because you killed your momentum that you had coming from here. If you were able to keep her down this line of logic, keep all of her focus on the mandate, slowly and carefully remove school from the equation so we can kind of just talk about the idea intrinsically behind mandating something, then this could have gone a bit better. But your decision here really screwed you. So, you know, that's something to keep in mind there, Hanz. Booksmarts notepad looking like a doctor's prescription. A little bit, bruh. I'm being book fucked. Yes, you are, bruh. And at least I'm being, you know, slow and steady with you, right? Like I'm advising you to do. You gotta be slow and steady, bruh.
What I'm asking is, how do we ensure that we get enough of society, because you agree that's a terrible thing. It's like if we have like a portion of society that can't read or write, how do we get them to voluntarily choose this like education system, or the new one, like the good one that we made, over literally anything and everything else they can do?
Oh no! What are you doing? So remember, and if you get upset at me, I will give the usual like bit of context that I give for these streams. We have the benefit of hindsight. We know how the conversation is going to go. We have the benefit of pausing. We can do a line by line. So anytime I'm very like flamboyant about like when we're making mistakes and stuff, it's because I'm in the position that I'm in, and it's a privileged one. But do you see how when you gave me the agreement that this was a gnarly point that you made, look at what we've done. We've gone back to this, Hanz. We've gone back to this. No good. That's too bad for you, bruh. That's two bads. I'm putting 2 check marks there. So we have to kind of ease into this so we don't have any easing. We're jumping back to the thing that we knew that she didn't respond very well to the first time that you brought it up, right? And I think that this is a similar problem. And if Relly, if you're listening or you listen in the future, Relly, this is why I say that you need to be more flexible in your questioning of people, or more flexible in your logical approach. Hanz is having a similar problem here because Hanz in his mind has framed the entire discussion like this, where he's very well aware that the school part of this equation shouldn't factor in, because even a perfect school would not, be okay for Demonmama to mandate. Like for you, it's very, very clear, but for them, it's not. And you have to ease into this, or at the very least, you need to recognize when approaches like this are not doing you any justice. They're not really landing with the person in front of you. So you have to have a change in tact according to the person that's in front of you. Demonmama did not respond well to this the first time, yet we're going to try it again. Let's see what kind of response we get from Demonmama here.
Yeah, there's tons of ways to do that. Like literally, there's so many. There's like almost an infinite amount of ways to do that.
Now, I'm having a problem with Demonmama here because this is the second time, and I guess I'll note a rhetorical fault here. Demonmama does this thing where they said there's so many solutions. I'm going to say that's bad for Demonmama. Because if there are so many solutions and you're portraying it as if we should know what those solutions are, you need to provide them, right? And people will get upset with you or frustrated with you if you don't provide them. So Demonmama's response here is something that I didn't particularly like. So we'll go ahead and hop back off of that. She repeats the so many solutions. Solutions. Okay. And that's not great either, Demonmama. So Demonmama, if there is a plethora of solutions, it's really helpful to always combine that with a list of possible solutions, which, if I recall correctly, you will do later. But it would have been very helpful to have that early on, because otherwise it appears as if you're deflecting. And because of the tone that you have when you deliver this sort of thing, especially when it's paired up as it was in this case over here with shitting on the other side, like, well, if you have to mandate it, it's fucked because there's so many other solutions, and if the only solution you could come up with is to mandate your fuck system that nobody wants to go to, then that's a bit fucked. Like when you're combining these points together, this smugness where you're not providing solutions but you're saying there's infinitely many and the person should be well aware of them, and then you're not giving any, it's not great. Okay, and it's going to start triggering Hanz as well. So on both sides we have these kinds of rhetorical faults that are going to start to spiral into a not so fun conversation, right?
You can entice them with interesting things, stuff like, I don't know, there's like a million ways you could do this. You could offer some sort of things like, I mean, one great example is like the free lunches is something that gets a lot of kids to show up to school. That's one thing because it addresses an economic issue that prevents kids from going to school. It really depends on which part of the school that you're trying, or which part of people avoiding schooling that you're trying to deal with. So like you can name a reason why somebody wouldn't go to school, and I can try to give you a potential solution for that issue. I just don't think that like, even in the absence of solutions to these individual problems, that justifies mandatory schooling.
The double down. Yeah, for sure. Like we said. So she said before, she's saying now, even if we couldn't solve some of the problems that make kids not want to go to school, I still don't think we should mandate it. Yeah, and you also didn't think we should mandate it even if the school was perfect, you know? So this is at least being consistent from Demonmama. It doesn't matter, and to give a point to Hanz here, it does not matter how much we change on the school side or how many discussions we have about improving school. It does not impact Demonmama's belief about the mandates. Demonmama is, in the abstract sense, just against mandates for schooling. Just no matter what. Doesn't matter what kind of schooling we're talking about, right? It's just she's against mandating for schools just in general, right? And that's why Hanz, to be fair to Hanz, wants to get away from discussing the school topic at all, because it doesn't matter. It will make no difference. She'll still be against the mandating the schools thing. And let me give some advice to Hanz here. Remember, you're saying this, and you said in the chat, I wish she wouldn't bring up school at all then, if that's not a point that should matter for her logic. What did you ask?
What I'm asking is, how do we ensure that we get enough of society, because you agree that's a terrible thing. It's like if we have like a portion of society that can't read or write, how do we get them to voluntarily choose this like education system, or the new one, like the good one that we made, over literally anything and everything else they can do?
You're asking in terms of the schooling thing, right? You're not asking like specifically about mandates or anything like that. Instead, you're putting her in a position where she can give you an answer that is still about improving schools, which when it was repeated by you, she definitely went down. She went down improving the schools or solutions for the schools. And she had at least the good enough amount of faith to say that even if we did all of this, so skipping all of this, I still am anti-mandates, right? I'm still against mandates. We can solve this in so many ways. We can entice them with interesting things, give them free lunch, address economic concerns. But even if we did all that, I still don't think we should mandate it, right? So even Demonmama is trying to bring us back to the mandate thing at this point. So you need to do a better job. I hope we do not repeat this again, right? If you want kids in schools without mandates, when they have the option to play games and sports, you need school to be better than the alternatives. That's your opinion. But you need to realize that you're bringing up the school thing. That's my whole point here, is that you don't want her to mention the school thing because you think that's bad of her to do, but you're forcing her to with the framing of your question. So I'm just pointing out, like, don't say some dumb shit like, well, she shouldn't bring up the schools or improving them at all because it has nothing to do with her argument. She's responding to what you're asking, right? Like, and she's giving you some kind of half solution. Like, maybe we can't always make school always better than all other options, but we could certainly make it more enticing than other options. Sure. Like, maybe we can't find a 100% solution to this, but we can make it maybe like 20% more enticing, or 30% more enticing, or 60% more enticing. And it wouldn't matter how enticing we make it, because even if we made it 100% more enticing, I still don't think we should mandate it, right? So this is all separate from the mandation, the mandating thing, okay? So just bear this in mind, bro. Bear this in mind.
Even in the absence of solutions to these individual problems, that justifies mandatory schooling, that justifies using the threat of law or the threat of the state to force people who are deeply either suffering in school or who for whatever reason, don't feel like the school system is ideal for them. I think.
But you said that the suffering, like, and like the badness of the school is irrelevant to like the mandation of like people going. Like, what if we had like the perfect school?
Yeah, absolutely.
We had a million options where like.
Yeah, sure. Like, you still don't get to force somebody to do that.
Why are you asking this? Oh man, this line by line is not looking very favorable for you. You already knew this. You already asked this question. Why are you wasting talk time on it? You already asked if we had the perfect school, could we then mandate it? And she said no. And that was the whole point of you making the decision to take this route down here, right? And then to repeat it, because remember, we did that twice here, right? You already know the answer to this question. It doesn't matter if you reword it. You're going to get the same answer here, Hanz. So again, you're focusing on the schools here, and you know that that is not the primary variable to focus on, and you were frustrated that she kept bringing this up, but look who is doing it. It's not her, it's you, right? So this is not great.
You don't get to force someone to go do something like that, especially with no reason. What reason do you see? Here's the thing.
I can give you the reason.
Wait, hold on. One of the things that's been annoying me about this conversation is that it's presumed that you must force people to go to school. There's nothing that says that you have to do that. There's no claim that you have to force people to go to school.
No, it's his opinion. I don't. Yeah, of course he's assuming that because it's his opinion. If instead of pointing out like, it kind of bothers me that you're just saying this opinion as if it is the way that it is. Why don't you ask about it then? Like, I don't know. That's not the right way of going about it. You're just throwing shit at him for having an opinion. So that's a fault from Demonmama. Like, it's like, that's his opinion. Like, you're going to have to address it in some way. You can't just like hand wave it like that. If you would have just, instead of saying this dumb shit, just let him answer your question, you would have been so much better off. Because you pose this question. Don't let him answer. Treat him as if he's interrupting you when you ask the question, right? And then you went on a diatribe afterwards that was like about the opinion that you could have gotten more information about if you would have let him answer the question. So this is a fault here from Demonmama, in my opinion. Remember how I said before that Hanz had this moment where he was considering like, should I ask the perfect school question as like a question, or should I say like, or should I make a statement question? And he stopped himself and he made the better rhetorical decision to just ask a question, an innocent question, and then go from there. Demonmama has the opposite. She has this moment of, I'm going to ask like a decent question and then I'll learn more about this dude's perspective. And then she says, nah, fuck that, dude. This motherfucker just thinks we should mandate schools for no fucking reason. Like, what reasons could he possibly... Wait, no, that's a fucking question. I'm not asking a goddamn question. That's dumb. This motherfucker has no reasons. Actually, I don't even need to ask. Like, well, no, hold on a minute there. You almost had that right. Remember, you're criticizing him for the assumption that you're able to force people to go to school. You have an assumption in the opposite direction. For some reason, you've arbitrarily chosen that you can't force people to go to school, right? Like, if we want to apply this to both of you, it applies to both of you. Like, both of you have chosen either sides of this topic, right? And we don't really at this point super well understand why either of you believe that, and we're still at a point in the conversation where we're trying to flesh that out, but you're treating him as if he's crazy for having taken the other side without trying to dissect or understand why he's taken that other side. Here was your opportunity to, and you really failed to capitalize on that. So that's a failure from you, in my opinion. Good God. All right, so now we're way off in this direction. Hopefully we can recover. Hopefully we piece this back together. This giving reason for force, that's pretty good.
What gives you the right? You have to give a reason for why you think someone should be forced to do something. If you are making the argument for why we should force people to do something, you have to give a good argument for that.
Of course.
I don't think there's a good argument to force people. I don't think it's a good thing to force people to do something that's like, quote unquote, good for them. Because I think there's a huge problem with coercing people into like your particular like worldview. And I think that there's arguments that can be made. I think that there's all kinds of things you can do to convince people that your way of doing things is better. I just don't think that forcing them with the power of the state is the answer to that, especially in this particular context.
Yeah, well, you already said that, so we're repeating ourselves. That's not great given we had an opportunity to ask a question and we didn't, right? We loop all the way back, bloop, to here. To the threat of law on students is bad. Okay, now that we've done all this and we've kind of given him a little bit of a carrot and then whacked him with the stick, let's see if he remembers this question and responds to it, because that would be great. That would be awesome, and then we can just continue on that. You know, that would be I'd be pretty partial to that. And if he does, I'll take all of this argumentation and I'll move it a little to the left so we have a bit more space on that side to expand, like Manifest Destiny, and we'll go that way.
I think there are places where you could argue that like force is more justified, and I think that we could run down that path. Like I said, natural disasters.
I like that we're having an olive branch. You know, I'm trying to be very fair to Demonmama, point out anything that's that's good. I like that. That's a good one. Yeah.
Plagues are ones where it's like, okay, if we don't step in here, other people are going to die far beyond this person. But that's not the case with school. You don't have that impetus.
Okay, so here are the two best, most basic reasons I can provide for why we should force somebody to go to school.
Great. I love to see it. You remember. You didn't remember what her response to your other thing was, and you kind of fucked up there, but hey, you did a decent job on that one.
One of my OnlyFans subscriptions deleted their account. I don't know what else to do with dirty money.
Okay, thanks. Well, spend it here. I'll clean your money for you, unless it's a crime to admit such a thing. In which case, I definitely don't. I don't know what you mean by dirty money, but this is okay. I won't say anything further. My lawyer is in my ear, and he's saying don't say anything else. So then we went to here. We went to there, and now we're going this way. Okay, give us your reasons. I'd love that.
First one, personal betterment. If wait, ready? If existing in society is it is necessary to have a certain degree of skills, whatever those skills may be. It may be basket weaving, it may be hunting, it may be reading, writing, arithmetic. Any of those things, if you need it to exist in society, you probably should know it for your personal benefit. No. I let you talk for 5 minutes. Please let me go through it. It's 2 points. Please, God.
He did let you talk an awful lot. He tried to talk when you asked the question, and then you interrupted him, and then you looped. This is fair, Demonmama. I'm sorry. Sometimes I'm like, that's I get annoyed with the come on, I just let you talk for fucking 30 minutes. Come on. Sometimes that pisses me off. This is I think that's warranted. He's okay with not wanting you to interrupt. Just let him fucking give his reasons. I will say that, please God, not fucking necessary, because it shows that you're much more frustrated than otherwise you would appear to be. So this may seem super minor, but you seem like a guy who could take a rhetorical critique or two. Okay, so remember, you don't want to come off as being frustrated by the fact that you need to state this thing. You just want to state this thing as a matter of fact. I let you finish all your points. I said I had 2 points. Please let me continue my points. There are much better ways of wording it. But when you have things like, please God, oh God, you've talked for fucking 5 minutes. It's really demonstrating how frustrated you were listening to her talk, right? And it kind of puts into question what the energy of listening you had was when she was talking, right? Because if she was able to talk for a full 5 minutes, yet you have this really negative opinion of her, how long she took to speak, or things like this, it brings into question how well of a job you're doing at listening to her, where your emotions are at. So just try to keep that stuff close to the chest if possible. I know it's a little emotional thing, but just it's a little thing. Okay, so it's for the people at home as well. If you're talking to parents, you're talking to a loved one, or you're talking to somebody at work, try to keep it close to the chest. that card of like how you're feeling emotionally about what the other person is saying, because they may not even give what you're about to say in terms of the 2 points a fair shake if they think that you didn't give them a fair shake when they were talking, right? So if you're somebody that does this, just keep in mind that that could be costing you in a way you're not really seeing. So it's good to be honest, but when you're honest about like negative emotions or feelings or interpretations you have about what other people are saying, it brings into question how good of a job you're doing of listening or how seriously you're taking them or yada yada, and encourages them to do the exact same when they're listening to your points, right? So even if they don't interrupt again, they may treat you with malice in a way that they wouldn't have if you were just like, you know, if you're more matter of fact about it. So just a little thing, but it may be helpful for people.
It will help them do better in society, and for especially extremely young children, where these formative years are extremely important. I do not think they are personally capable of saying, oh, I will choose just to never go to school, and that's better for me. And you're saying you can't force someone to do something that's good for them? But we argued, and I'm not going to talk about the vaccine stuff, but
I mean, I think it's a poor comparison.
Okay, cool.
Like that, right? I think that was a poor comparison, but sure. We don't need that information, and it doesn't help you, right? It does nothing but demonstrate this negative opinion that you have of what the other person is saying. Both of you do that, and it's really not good.
I would say that in this specific case, being able to interact in society in a way that lets you like do literally anything inside of it, like you can't order food off a menu. You can't do you can't get a job. You can't like do hobbies that require this activity.
Sure. Okay.
And this will permanently like make you worse off. It's like if people don't learn to read until like 10 years old, it's harder for them to learn to read. So what are we going to do then? We're going to permanently allow people to cripple themselves in terms of their capacity for life because of that. And then the second argument is societal.
Jesus Christ, it's a long thing for point number one. You're pulling a Demonmama. You're taking 5 minutes, bruh. 5 minutes. Come on. Come on, buddy. She wants to talk. You can't just keep talking. The more time you talk, she can't talk. And that's unacceptable.
If society requires people being able to do these things, read, write, basket weave, hunt, and we don't get them to be able to do it, society will functionally collapse because people have zero skills to keep the society functioning.
Am I wrong? It's just a funny point, dude. It's just it gets a giggle out of me. If no one can fucking read, write, or do science, I don't think. Oh man. School accomplishes reading and writing, but don't fucking try to slip into the second hole there with fucking science. Don't do that to me, Hanz. Don't do that to me. Let's keep it a hundy, okay? School teaches people how to read and write. It most certainly does not teach them how to do science, okay? Let's be real. We have a whole population of people that don't seem to understand science stuff. So I mean, I will grant you that it teaches people how to read and write, but let's be real. It's not this cure-all whatever thing, and we still have a bunch of uneducated people that went to school. So it's the groundwork, sure. You need to go further. You do. We agree there.
I think those are two very good reasons as to why we should coerce someone. I'm not saying forcing someone to school isn't coercive. I'm saying it is necessary coercion for the good of society, for the good of keeping anything existing. So I would ask, what would we do for the super young kids, for the 3-year-olds who don't want to go to school? Are they capable of making that discussion?
Yeah, sure. Have you ever talked to a 3-year-old?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Because I don't know if you know this, but as a matter of child psychology, children are actually pretty receptive to new things.
We're off the fucking rails. We're just gonna put a fucking line and we're gonna, yeah, she doesn't respond to either of your points. You're most certainly correct. Okay, so we're just gonna But Demonmama said, let's talk about children, because it doesn't seem like you understand children. Do you talk to children, Hakir? Have you ever talked to a fucking 3-year-old? You ever read science before, you uneducated fuck? I'm starting to understand why you think schooling is a fucking necessity, because dumb fucks, Neanderthal fucking knuckle draggers like you are fucking walking across the plains of the United States. Okay, let me fucking fill you in on some details about 3-year-olds. Okay?
They don't understand the world. They naturally seek guidance from parents. But this is like a reason, like, this is discussed. This is so fundamental. Like, we know this is why children are vulnerable to even negative things.
Another rhetorical point. This, like, it's so fundamental. It's like, so like, this is like when Jangles and other people say, bog, what do they say? Chat, you'll probably know. Bog simple or something. Bog standard, I think it is. This is bog standard psychology. It's like that kind of shit. You're gonna fucking trigger people with that, because you've triggered me for sure, and it's gonna trigger other people. It's just not a good fucking... Oh, Jangles is in the chat. Yeah, I don't like when you do that, bro. This fucking bog standard shit, like, that's just bog standard psychology, my friend. Like, you know, like, this is not rhetorically good, okay? I don't like it at all. Fucking dissing my bogs, bro. Yeah. Hey, you're a man of science. You got to get together with Hanz and teach him about children, Jangles. You two got to get in a call together.
Like abuse and things like that. It's because they trust their parents. They trust the adult figures in their life.
I know what's good for you, bro. You got to go to school so you're not a dumb fuck when you get old. That's the kind of shit my mom would tell me all the time. She's like, do you want to be dumb like me and your dad? Do you want to be a fucking idiot like me and your dad? You need to pay attention, because you know who didn't pay attention in school? Me and your dad. And we're dumb. You could be so fucking smart. You just have to pay attention. Like, I feel like this is a normal thing that parents say all the time.
And that trust right now is often taken advantage of and used to be really abusive. And that includes with the school system. You can tell a child, hey, we're going to go to school today. Isn't that fun? You're going to meet new friends. You're going to do this thing. And most kids, they're going to go. I don't remember a single time in any of me or my siblings' childhood where anyone had a problem going to school. It was ever even necessary to issue a threat, because we were excited to go there to learn, to have yummy foods, to meet our friends, to talk to our teacher who we liked. These are all things that can inspire a child to go to school. I would love to know what the statistics are on the number of times that the law has actually had to be invoked for a child. Now, this is what tends to happen in this conversation, and this happened on Twitter quite a bit, which is that there is a sort of switch, a pivot at convenience between like a high school kid or a child that's like 3 years old. I don't think you have to apply any level of force to get a child to go to school. And if you do, then there's a reason there's probably a reason for it. If a child is screamingly terrified of school, then you can go, okay, maybe school or standard school is not the right answer here.
Well, no shit, Sherlock. I don't know.
And you can have something else set up for them. Maybe they need a tutor at home because they have special needs.
Okay. Story time. So you know your boy Booksmarts is a fucking genius, a god amongst men, truly one of the brightest intellectuals on twitch.tv, and may I say, even in the world. But... My brother and sister were not this, okay? They really struggled in school, and they had a very rough time with school. They didn't really like going, and both of them needed like special classes or like special education that they went to instead of the standard classes, right? And at least, so my brother, he has ADHD. So getting medication and stuff really helped him improve in school and do a lot better. And then he enjoyed going, right? Because he's doing a lot better and teachers aren't yelling at him. He's not yelling at other students. It all went well for him. For my little sister, she went into this program called RSP, which taught her like how to study and stuff like this. And it taught her how to work around her brain and how she learns and how she thinks. And so she got a bunch of education in how to study and memorize stuff and whatever. And then she did really well. So she only had to be in that program for maybe like 1 or 2 years, I think it was. And then she could go back to the standard classes with everybody else. So she just had this thing where like she didn't learn how to learn. And once she learned how to learn, then she had like the personal tools that she needed to keep up with everybody else, even if she was starting behind the plate in terms of like academic, I don't know, potential or whatever, right? She didn't get everything right off the bat. And it took her a lot of studying, much more study time than it takes her peers. But once she learned that she just has to put more time into studying and she needs to work smarter, then she was able to get through school, right? So these are things that are definitely available to you now, at least in the schools that I went to. And they can be very, very helpful. So that's decent.
That sounds fantastic.
That's not abolition.
I don't understand.
That's not abolition.
Wait, that is absolute. Wait, what do you define abolition as?
Whoever said abolition? I'm so lost. Oh no! I've written every single line of this and I don't know where this abolition thing is coming from. Whoever said we needed to abolish schools? There's extra context on Twitter between them. What? Oh man. Do I really have to look at fucking Twitter, dude? Oh my god. Okay. I really don't care to dive into that, but okay. And now we're randomly on this.
I would be really interested to understand what you think abolition.
In this case, if you're like abolishing the concept of like a mandated school system, essentially you're saying we're going to send a tutor at home. What if the tutor gets there and they say we don't want to do anything? What? And you say like the parents. Again, this is like explicitly all anecdotal that you said you had a good experience and that you liked going to school.
Yeah, I loved it.
Okay, cool. A lot of kids do not. A lot of kids hate going to school. And here's the second part.
Advocates they should be forced to on threat of law.
Correct, because it is necessary for society. So excellent. Right, cool. So I let you talk for 5 minutes and let me go. So if you are saying that kids will willingly go to school if they right now you say kids like going to school because you like going to school. But in the alternative world that you are suggesting, it is not mandatory to go to school, which means kids can choose to do literally anything else. And you are telling me, straight-faced, that they will choose to go to the school, even a fun school, over doing literally anything else.
Here we go back to this again. That's 3 fucking check marks for you, motherfucker. At least we're kind of getting like more into it, but like we had a whole bunch of gobbledygook. Okay, and now we're back to this, which I'm going to label affectionately Exhibit A. And here we are again, repeating Exhibit A.
I don't know. This sounds like a really weird framing.
It's like not a weird framing.
A kid, wait, hold on a second. A kid can do anything, literally anything else. Okay, so like what? They can do that. They can do that now. Kids can already do. They're already creatures. Like, okay, let me ask you this, just so that I can get clear what you're trying to get at. Let's say you have a 6-year-old, okay, and it's time to go to kindergarten, and maybe you get them to go for the first day, okay?
Wait, and you don't I got them to go? Like, is that coercion? Because when parents tell their kids to go to school. Wait, no. Ask the question: is when parents tell their kids to go to school, is that coercion? Like, is the parents like coercing the kids to go to school?
Are you? What's your goal with this?
No, it's a serious question.
That's going to be a check against our boy here. She's so scatterbrained it hurts. Bro, he's not helping though. Is that coercion? No.
Is that a serious question?
Yes.
Because it doesn't look like
it's completely serious.
Okay, so let's say, hold on. When I say you get your kid to go to school, let's say you go, hey, 6-year-old, we have this brand new cool thing called school, and it's really great. You get to go do these things, and the kid goes, okay, daddy, okay, mommy, let's go to school. And then they go to school. No? Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. What if they say no? What do you think should happen?
They say, sorry, buddy. I know you don't want to stay home, but you should probably go.
Okay.
And if
all right, and then what if they say no then?
You take them to school.
Okay, and what if they don't want to get in the car?
You pick them up and take them to the car.
Okay, so you pick them up, and what if they fight you on that?
Then if
do you beat your kid?
No, I'm not in favor of child abuse whatsoever.
Do you beat your kid? Does this count as being in the weeds? I never say some stupid shit like being in the weeds. That's some old people shit.
Okay, so what happens if you can't get them to go in the car because they're terrified and they don't want to go to school? Do you say, okay, let's wait until tomorrow and let's try this again?
And then tomorrow, and tomorrow they say the same thing, and they keep doing this. This kid never gets an education.
Sure, yeah, that's really challenging. That's a really challenging situation. The answer that you have to answer here? I don't have to answer that question.
Yes, you do.
You think they should? No, I do not.
You're the only one that has to answer that question because he literally has the solution caked into his fucking entire theory here. His entire theory is that you have to mandate it and you have to force it and the government has to make it a thing and then they have to use the power of the law, which you disagree with, to make it happen, right? He's the only one that has a solution here. You don't have a solution. This is a situation that fucks you. This is what he was trying to get at when he said that if you cannot make the school greater than all other options, then what are you going to do? You're literally just like flipping the script on him about like a question that you already have the answer to. And it's not beating your fucking kid, you psycho. It's not about this. Like, you don't beat your fucking kid. That's such a shitty little thing to say. What is going on here? Destiny is responding to this too? Lol. Oh, okay. Literally, his answer was put him in the car. Yeah, like, you have to answer this. No, you have to answer this. What are we, in the fucking Twilight Zone? But she said that there are alternative methods of teaching kids. That was her solution, isn't it? No, because it doesn't solve this problem. She's presenting a problem where the kid just decides that they never want to do the education, that they don't ever want to go to school. This doesn't necessarily solve that, because the heart of the question is, it's not if a kid doesn't want to go to school. This is a shitty way of framing this. It's not about this. It's about if the kid doesn't want to be educated. Okay, hold on. We'll do this. Educated. This is the real problem. Okay, it's if the kid refuses an education. That's what Hanz is pointing out. That's what the real problem is. Demonmama's solution of like, oh well, then you homeschool them, right? Okay, well, what if they refuse homeschooling? Oh, then you get a tutor for them. Okay, but what if they refuse to? Like, we're still in this same bubble of like, the problem is really if the kids don't want to be educated, right? Because then we don't have a solution for this. If they just opt out of education, this is what the problem is. That's the whole reason we have the mandate. It's not to arbitrarily make kids go to school. It's so they get an education. That's why nowadays you have options like special education or homeschooling or these other things, because the goal of the law is not to get the kids to go to school. The goal of the law is to make sure that the kids are educated. So you're getting lost in the sauce if you think that Demonmama is providing a solution by giving homeschooling or tutoring as an alternative here, because we're not talking about school. We're not talking about school. We're talking about being educated, right? Like, does this make sense to you? So I'm saying like educated is going to encompass any of the options that you choose, whether it's school, homeschooling, tutoring, special education, yada, yada. But the problem that we're presented here is not necessarily that the kid doesn't want to go to school. That's not the heart of the issue here. The heart of the issue is if they choose not to do something to get them educated. That's really the problem that happens here, right? Like, to be fair to Demonmama and what you're saying, perhaps Hanz could make that more clear, and he could talk about like the alternatives that she gave. Well, maybe they do get special education. Maybe we do homeschool them, yada, yada. But if they reject all of those, you don't have something to break this loop, right? Instead, you go from school to homeschool to, I don't know, getting fucking Socrates to teach them. And if they refuse school, if they refuse this, if they refuse that, you don't have any special thing to break you out of this loop. you don't have the mandate thing to break you out of this loop, right? You just have to constantly be cucked by your kid. Like, okay, Stevie, if you don't want to go to school, that's fine. I know you've said no to going to school for 2 weeks, so we're going to get you homeschooling. Okay, Stevie, maybe I'm not the best teacher in the world, so we got Socrates in here to teach you. I know you've not been doing well the 2 months that I've tried homeschooling you, but that's okay. We'll get Socrates to teach you. And then he doesn't want to hang out with Socrates. Like, okay, honey, I know Socrates, he's not for everybody. You know, like then they just play outside and get to do whatever the fuck they want. Like, it's this loop that I see as the problem, right? Not necessarily all this other nonsense. At least from my perspective, that's where I see as the issue that they need to kind of hone in on, but whatever. I don't think it is because of kids not wanting to go to school that we have mandates. I think we have it for when the parents don't want them to. Whatever your fucking opinion is, dude, the point is the education. It's not to force the parents to make them go to school. That's why homeschooling is an acceptable form of education, because it doesn't matter that they go to school. What matters is that they learn what they were supposed to learn at school, whether that's self-study like little fucking actors and actresses do because they're running around the fucking world, or whether it's homeschooling because you're some fucking Jesus freak that wants to teach them in a fucking cult and do it all on your own, or you don't want them to be tainted by society, or you're fucking Amish or something else, right? Like, what matters is that they learn what the state thinks is important that they learn. What matters is that they got educated. It's not about parents that don't want their children to go to school. You're getting focused on the school thing, but that's not the fucking point of the law. The point of the law is that they become educated. You can become educated in a number of different ways, okay? The state just wants to make sure that the kids get an education.
You believe they should be forced to go to school. I believe we should seek out an alternative. If a child is terrified of going to school, we should seek out another way to teach them. Excuse me.
Why can't you just be good faith? You could get out of this loop by saying that, yeah, you could do special education, you could do tutoring, you could do homeschooling. What matters is the education. Okay, we're done with this. We're done with this. We're done with this. I'm going to skip ahead to the part that I didn't listen to, and then we're going to be done with this. You know what? This is the time where I shill. I'm going to set a timer on my phone, and I will suffer through fucking 10 more minutes of analysis unless we get a $50 donation. Then I'll continue and listen to more. But otherwise, I'm setting a 10-minute timer, and we're listening to fucking 10 more minutes of this, okay? If some Euler wants to make me fucking suffer through this, they can make me suffer through this. But otherwise, I'm not. This is trash. They're both being bad faith. Look at the amount of orange we have in this one little period. Look at this. Absolute garbage. Absolute unmitigated disaster, okay?
Yes, by and large, children are, but there are, of course, examples where this is not the case. Largely with children who have like severe behavioral or learning issues from childhood. Those things absolutely happen. So your belief is that you should physically pick up the child, force them into the car, and then what? What if they go to school and they're terrified and they're freaking out? What should you do then? I want to know what your view is. We should have the good
school. We should have the good school. And if that,
okay.
And if that,
so what if they don't like the good school?
Then they go anyway. I'll let them pick the best of all the bad options.
And what happens? And what happens if they don't want to go so bad? They're so terrified that they try to get out of school. What do you think they should do then?
We have you can have people. In this case, let's be anarchists here. Let's say we have a community watch that if they see a child outside of school, they will escort them back to school.
Okay, and what if the child says, "I'm not going back to school. That place terrifies me." Even in the perfect school
system. Then we can get them help. We can get them therapists.
Okay.
That's not an argument for no school.
Wait, hold on a second. We're not. Don't jump ahead. Don't jump ahead. Don't jump ahead. If the end goal is to get people to go to school, I don't think that you need a mandatory system. I think there are other ways you can do this. If a kid is resisting to the point of like physical distress, I think it's fair to say, wow, there is something that is terrifying my child, and we need to go seek out a way to help them learn. A way to get them inspired in learning, whether we're able to talk them through it with maybe a counselor or a psychologist or whatever, or or to come up with an alternative way. Maybe we could do a homeschooling process, and maybe
okay, what if they reject the homeschooling process? What if they jump out the window and try and run away every time?
There you go. It's bad faith, but at least you got us. In the end, when we go through all these options, the only child that hasn't found their place is a very dysfunctional child who needs professional help. I think they land on that later, but yeah, I would agree. Like, this is just, we're like creating rules for like such a weird subsect of children that I can't imagine it's super duper helpful.
Like
that's a question. Wait, that's a question for you.
We can keep making this crazier, Demonmama.
No, we can't.
Okay,
wait, please, wait. Hold on. Please tell me what your solution is. My solution there, if a child is that opposed to learning, then there might, like, I don't even know if there is an answer that anybody can have to that particular situation.
Therapy.
And now we opt out. Okay. When this timer goes off, you'll get 20 more minutes. I think that's fair. You'll get 20 more minutes of suffering. That's what you'll get.
Well, we should get them mental
Wait,
assistance.
sure, that's what I said. That's not mandatory schooling. That's not mandatory schooling. You're now offering my solutions back to me.
No. The end result is getting them into a mental state where they will agree to the mandatory schooling, Demonmama. That is the end result.
Wait, that's not the end goal.
Yes,
No. Okay,
is.
so wait. Then that's where we differ. My end goal is not to force children into school. My end goal is for children to be as happy as possible, as liberated as possible, as educated as possible.
Remember how I said before that the goal is education, not schooling? Boy, if Hanz would have just thought about this a little bit more and realized that the point of the law is to get kids to be educated and not for them to go to school. Fuck, we could have had such a better conversation. Holy shit. But unfortunately, this is where we are now. Okay. Is he going to realize the error in his ways and jump on this as a possible point to agree on? I doubt it.
Jump ahead. Don't jump ahead. If the end goal is to get people to go to school, I don't think that you need a mandatory system. I think there are other ways you can do this. If a kid is resisting to the point of like physical distress, I think it's fair to say, wow, there is something that is terrifying my child, and we need to go seek out a way to help them learn. A way to get them inspired in learning, whether we're able to talk them through it with maybe a counselor or a psychologist or whatever, or to come up with an alternative way. Maybe we could do a homeschooling process, and maybe
okay. What if they reject the homeschooling process? What if they jump out the window and try and run away every time?
That's a question. That's a question for you.
Keep making this crazier, Demonmama.
No, we can't.
Okay,
wait. Please, wait. Hold on. Please tell me what your solution is. My solution there, if a child is that opposed to learning, then there might, like, I don't even know if there is an answer that anybody can have to that particular situation.
Therapy. Well, we should get them mental
Wait,
assistance.
sure, that's what I said. That's not mandatory schooling. That's not mandatory schooling. You're now offering my solutions back to me.
No. The end result is getting them into a mental state where they will agree to the mandatory schooling, Demonmama. That is the end result.
Wait, that's not the end goal.
Yes,
No. Okay,
is.
so wait. Then that's where we differ. My end goal is not to force children into school. My end goal is for children to be as happy as possible, as liberated as possible, as educated as possible.
But what if they don't want to go to education? Every single kid. Every single kid's afraid of the system.
Now we have some irrelevant level fucking hypotheticals here. Holy shit. Out here, there be rape cages. We're on the high seas of debate now, bro. We're going into the real fucking hypotheticals. What if no kid wants to go to school or to be educated? Holy shit. Let's see. I wonder.
Every single kid. Okay, so if every single kid is afraid of the system, then you have a failed system. That thing should be discarded completely, and we should start from scratch.
And I think if one child is so scared and terrified mentally that they can't fit inside the existing mandated system, we'll get them the assistance they need until they can fit back inside of it. Because we both know this is so far removed from the majority of people.
Bro, you're the one that went to no kid wants to go to school.
Reroll how optimistic you are about how this conversation will end.
You know what? We could turn it around. I think if Hanz takes a moment, shifts his hips a little bit, takes a bit of a wide stance, takes a really deep breath, rubs his earlobes a little bit, takes out a canister of Vaseline, puts on a bald cap, starts to put it around his neck and then slip it, up under there. Maybe he could manage to pull his head out of his fucking asshole, and then we could have a good conversation here. So, you know what? I think that could be possible. He looks like a man who might have a tube of Vaseline laying around somewhere. He might be able to manage pulling his head out of his ass so we could fix this conversation. So yeah, there we go. I'm quite faithful, actually. Now I think that might actually happen. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on a second.
What are we holding on for? I'm ready.
No, you're going off on a whole tear. You're saying this is.
I'm going on a whole tear. I spoke for 10 seconds.
Yeah, and what the fuck did you say during those 10 seconds? Oh, I swear to God.
Okay, but going off on a tear is not necessarily about the time. It's about where the hell you're going with the actual conversation. So if you want to talk about so you've revealed one thing, which is that you've said that the goal is to make them fit back into the school system. I don't think that that's a good goal. I don't think that's a good enough reason to justify anything. I don't think that
it's not good enough to justify therapy. We should just let them be terrified and scream the entire time. What about mandated therapy for people who are struggling? That kid doesn't want to go to therapy.
Oh, absolutely fucking not. No, absolutely not. You think you should You think you should just like put someone into an institution just because they don't agree with you or because they have a behavioral issue?
It's a fucking mess, boys.
You think the state should force kids into an institution?
If they cannot function in society, they are a danger to themselves and everyone else. They are running away from their family. Absolutely use force to get them in a scenario where we can use all the experts and technology we have available to assist them. Absolutely. Home therapy. We can send a therapist to the home. But what if they keep escaping the home? We'll use the community watch to bring them back. If they don't want to deal with the therapist, they don't want to deal with any assistance because they're so sad, so scared. They can't go to mandatory school. They can't deal with regular therapy. They're going to run away from everybody. At that point, yeah, I would probably be okay with taking this child and putting them in a place where they can't escape from to get them the help they need.
You know what? Fuck it, dude. You know what? He's based. That deserves blue. That's based. At least he bit that fucking bullet. I'll give him credit. Yes.
So this one super child who doesn't fit inside this doesn't fit.
Wait. Before you get any further, that's your super child that you've invented. I think that this child.
Your super child refuses to go to school. Why can't the child also?
No, my super child is that my. Wait, hold on a second. If you want an actual answer to that, I don't think this imagined super child exists or is even common.
Then why the fuck have we had this entire conversation? So basically, this entire thing I don't think that exists.
And I think it's such an outlier.
Right.
Trying to
and the same thing with the kids crying about going to school. Sure.
That's not true. No, that's not true. I'm sorry. I have to call you on that. I want you to engage with actual facts on this.
What percentage of the population, of children are literally feral and will refuse to go to school in any capacity?
We're not talking about.
That's literally That's literally what
Hanz,
you're saying.
Okay, this is just getting to the point where I don't think that you actually are interested in engaging in good faith.
Yeah, you're bad faith, buddy. Okay, you should just hang up. I would hang up. This is ridiculous.
I think you're trying to
bad faith. I'm not trying. I'm legitimately curious.
No, wait. Hans, I'm dead serious right now. This isn't memeing around. I think you're being in bad faith. I think when I try to say, wait a second, I don't think the feral child is a good example for how we should structure a system or why we should justify or not justify using force to force people to go to school. And your response is, feral child. No, I was just about to talk about the fact that, as it turns out, you should engage with this. I would encourage you as a colleague and in a genuine.
I'm engaging. I'm listening.
Excuse me. Hold on. I'm not done with my sentence.
Okay.
That you should go and look at what the actual situation is as to how people feel about and are traumatized by and hurt by schools. Because I can tell you right now, it's not all butterflies and rainbows, as you seem to be like sort of laughing about when you refer to this feral child. There are a lot of children who deeply suffer. And excuse me, I'm not finished talking. I would love to finish my sentence.
I'm going to count the interruptions here. I'm going to count the interruptions because they're not even good interruptions from Hanz. Hanz, you're holy shit. I have a very negative opinion of you now. Oh, man. I didn't want to have this, but now we do. Why would you want me to watch this?
All right, like I can see where you're at with this. Like this is why I said on Twitter that I felt like you weren't engaging in good faith, because I really don't feel like you are.
Okay.
I feel like you have your position.
I can tell you.
I feel like you have your position, and you actually aren't. I don't think you're willing to engage. No. I don't think you're willing.
I told you all the things
I don't think you're willing to
engage. I think we can improve the school system. But like, if we have the ultimate school system, and the kids are still doing this, they still did what you said. Again, you started the super child meme, not me. This kid.
No, you asked me. What about a child that refuses it?
If we had to go to school. Like,
excuse me. You're prescribing me things I haven't said.
You're prescribing me. You know, here's another tip. Don't use big words if you're going to use them incorrectly. This less so applies to Demonmama and more so applies to other people, like the President's Sunday guy, because people will really meme on you, and you give them ammunition that you really don't have to give them when you like use words really incorrectly. I know I do this sometimes as well, but it looks really bad when you're heated and you're like arguing with people. Like, I feel like my language turns very simple when I get heated and stuff. Don't let your language turn super complicated when you get heated, because you'll just start using words wrong and you look like a doofus, in my opinion.
First of all, if we had the perfect system, I still don't think it would need to be mandatory. I think you could get near to or literally 100% attendance without ever using mandatory measures. I genuinely believe that. I think that's very possible.
Absolutely fucking insane.
Well, really that's fine, but that's fine.
Can you tell?
Wait. You can call me.
No. I want you to explain this point. I'll let you talk on this first. All right, ready? Okay. Explain to me how we can make a system where school or education is so appealing that children will choose it over literally everything else in society.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure, for sure.
Please.
Yeah, it's super easy. So if you want to have, wait, if you're trying to say that why I think that that's the case, I think kids like learning. And actually, it's funny because if you're willing to actually engage with this in good faith, you can go and actually listen to the professionals on this. Professional educators know that kids love learning. Hell, we've had massive improvements in literacy and in general education since the introduction of computer technology, because you can gamify things.
So
I see.
So the math. So the math game. That was some of my chat posted that. I had to make sure I wasn't a bad thing.
I see. Yeah, totally.
So the math games are going to be more fun than everything else. Like, enough that the child will choose to pick the math games.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
If they're not.
Maybe.
Wait, hold on a second. If they're not, then make them better. Then do better. We should turn to this. Here's what I'm saying here is we should turn to these things instead of forcing a child. If there's something that you have to force a child to do, like, for example, here's an example of something I think you might actually have to apply force to a child to do. If a child has a cancerous tumor on their neck and they're running around, you're like, we need to get this looked at, and they won't go in, you might have to bite that bullet and say, yep, we got to force this kid to go get that taken care of because it's going to kill the kid otherwise. There you go. I would be so much more open to that. But I think that should be used as a last resort. And in reality, I don't think we have to use force near to as much as we do right now. I think the reason we use force now is because it's deemed as expeditious to a specific end, and because, well, as it turns out, if you make it mandatory to go to school, you can push it off onto individual responsibility to blame people for when the system fails them. That's why I think we use force. I think you can build a system that uses no force and would achieve close to, if not 100% attendance, by actually choosing to actively pursue things that aren't force and pursue force only as a truly last effort.
And cool, and you seem to take a lot of issue when I said use force as a last effort with the super child who cannot function in society. They're willingly making choices.
Yeah, because you said that they should be institutionalized.
To get the help they need, absolutely. If they're a danger to themselves, they're a danger to everybody else.
To be fair, I will give the chat 5 more minutes. And if we do not hit, and I don't think that we will.
Well, then I guess
if we do not hit $90, then I will not continue. But if we do hit $90 here, I'll give you guys a special. I will finish the video no matter how long it takes me. I'll finish it. Okay? That doesn't count. I didn't start the timer. God, kill me. Oh, God, kill me, please.
Well, then I guess you and I just have different positions on.
No, but this is the last use of force.
What institutions.
What if they're gonna? What if they're gonna Roblox themselves? Like, would you be okay with force then?
I mean, me personally, I would take. Excuse me, hold on a second. Wait.
What's the prescription?
Whoa! Don't. Oh, wow! We're gonna do the performative thing. Let's do it. All right. Listen, you want to hear? Me personally, if my kid was gonna, if my child was going to like kill themselves or was eminently in physical danger, then yes, I would tackle them. I would be like, look, let's get you out of the danger. I know you'll see through this on the other side.
What about other people's kids? Would you force them? Would you?
No.
You wouldn't you wouldn't let the state take children from parents when the kid says they're going to kill themselves and the parents aren't doing anything. You're really going to let that happen? Really? Wait, that's what you're dying on right now?
Hold on a second. You're saying that are we talking about like an idealized world? I obviously think that right now in our current state of affairs, it's probably a good thing if a child is completely isolated from the rest of society, that we have a mechanism in place by which they can get out of that.
Wait, what the fuck? Wait, what happened? What are we talking about? Hold on, I might be going crazy.
But I don't think. I don't believe. Hold on. No, you have to let me finish. If you ask me a question, no. I will stop it. Wait, Hanz, I will stop right now. If you're gonna do this, I will stop right now.
You're allowed to run away. That's okay.
Bruh. I will stop right now.
I haven't raised my voice like.
All right, this is easy.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, this is easy.
Right,
yeah, no, because you're talking over me.
So the question.
You literally need to let me finish on this. You asked me a specific question.
Here's the question.
I will not.
And you didn't engage.
I will not do this. I will not.
The question was, if your kid is going to Roblox themselves, will you stop them and institutionalize them? And
yes, I would.
And you said yes for them.
No. And
then so what I'm asking then is,
Hanz, I'm done.
And then I'm asking about for other people's kids. For other people's kids, would you be okay with the state doing that to other people's children if the kid's going to Roblox themselves? That's a yes or no question.
Hanz. First of all, I'm actually done with this. We're not going to continue with this afterwards. I'm actually done. And consider this a serious mark on our friendship, because I think this is remarkably ridiculous.
You know what? That's lawful neutral. I'll go ahead and give that a pink.
First of all, you asked me two different questions. The first time you said, would I personally tackle my child if they were in physical danger? Yes, I would take that onto myself. I would take the risk of potentially harming my child physically onto my own hands. And if I hurt them in the process, that would be my goddamn responsibility, because I chose to intervene there. Then, just very, very slippery, you just about 5 seconds ago changed the question when you said, no, wait, the question I asked you was whether you would have them institutionalized. And you never said that in the first situation, nor did I ever do that. This entire conversation has been you. Excuse me, I'm not even. Hanz, are you for real?
I'll give that to you.
I'm done. Hanz,
I think what I said was about whether or not you would stop.
Are you for real?
But then I asked, Hanz, would you stop other people from doing this? It's
Hanz, is this really?
Let's not even.
Wait, is this
institutionalizing? Let's talk about stopping the Robloxing.
Hanz, I'm done. This is disrespectful and stupid.
Okay.
And I mean that. Like, I mean that on a very real way. Like, I came in here totally ready to have an actual conversation with you. And what keeps happening is you'll ask me a question, then you interrupt. And when I try to be able to actually answer that question, then you accuse me of talking too much. But if you ask me a question, you excuse me, you're doing it right now. You're doing it right now. Oh, nice meme. I love that.
I mean, yeah.
Is that a problem? Do you you have a problem that I talk too much?
I mean, gish galloping is a thing. Like, you don't really stay on topic. Yeah.
You think that, wait. Where have I gish galloped? Give me a specific example of where I've gish galloped.
I asked you whether you would stop your own child from Robloxing themselves, and then you said yes. And then the second question...
That's a direct answer! Hans, that's not a fucking gish gallop, dude.
And then the second question,
this is so stupid.
Which you refused to answer,
come the fuck
was,
on.
Are you in favor of a state interceding to stop someone from Robloxing themselves if their parents won't do it?
Oh,
that's a yes or no question.
Hold on a second. Wait, do you want to watch back the VOD? I challenge you to go watch back the VOD, because if you go back and watch back the VOD, you didn't let me finish that answer at all. Not even close. I didn't even get halfway through. You're doing it again. You're doing it again right now. Literally every single time I respond, you start to interrupt me before I can even answer. This is incredibly frustrating.
All right, I'll give it.
And I know, and it's funny. I guess like. No, I'm done. I literally don't want to engage with you anymore. I actually
then hang up, dumb fuck.
I'm disappointed personally.
Oh my god.
Cool. And whatever. Like, you can say that's whatever. But I came on here because you invited me on. You wanted to have a talk about this, and I really genuinely tried to engage. I don't think I've thrown any.
I don't think you did, but that's totally okay.
Really. Wait. Can you tell me where?
I know you're disappointed.
Oh my god. How long is this gonna go on for? I can't believe I guilt tripped you guys into donating for this. This is awful. This is not fun. I thought the end would be fun.
I mean, you made fun of like the concept of like getting a kid to go to school, even though you agreed that like in certain situations.
Wait, did I make fun of that?
Yes, you did. You don't think you engaged with the question. You talked about like how to, in regards to like what's the important thing. I explained to you that like not having an education in society is literally life crippling for children.
Wait, and I never engaged with that?
Yeah, you didn't engage with that whatsoever.
I did literally engage with that.
Oh.
I literally...
Holy fuck, that could not have been more perfect.
Like, I don't know, just watch back the VOD. Like, I don't know. This is I genuinely did not expect like this level of actual bad faith from you.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you are.
I'm not.
Actually, let's do this properly.
So I thought.
Right, so have a good one.
And that's where we will end this.
Oh, that was.
He kicked her? That's neutral. Boy, oh boy, what a conversation they had. A bit of rhetorical or strategic advice to Demonmama here. You probably should have left the call way sooner, because that's an unfortunate end. Wow, we had quite the fucking thing here, right? He starts out with real questions, identifies the problem aspect, makes a mistake with how he asks, gets some agreement. She's mean. He does the same stupid shit again. We go into this whole thing like, oh wow, it's been a journey, chat. That was a trip. And that is an understatement, Revan. So people said you wanted to talk about that Hanz and Demonmama debate?
Oh no, people told me you wanted to talk about it.
Oh, apparently we had very different conclusions. What was your takeaway?
I thought the Demonmama looked really, really, really bad. Hanz was a little loud, but I think that, yeah.
And why do you think Demonmama looked really, really, really bad?
She almost didn't engage on a single point, and I think it became pretty clear that some of her like analogies or stories were like obviously in bad faith. And when she was pushed to like defend an argument, she would immediately pivot and change the topic. And I think that was like pretty readily apparent.
How much of an obligation do you put on Hanz to then refocus that conversation? Because there was one main pivot that I pointed out where he brings up two main points for why he supports the idea of mandates. And then she goes on telling some long story. And then he, instead of refocusing on those 2 points that he made, interrupts her and says that what she's describing is not abolition, and then they go into a whole tangent on that rather than focusing on the 2 points that he gave.
I think he brings the conversation back a couple times well, but then other times he lets her kind of like lead him around like on some dumb points. Yeah.
Okay. And my understanding then is you're putting much more of an onus on Demonmama for dodging on those points from your perspective rather than on Hanz for like choosing not to pursue those points.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to like get people in real time on stuff like that. Hanz could have probably done a better job at refocusing, but I think he refocused pretty well a couple of times given the how like bombastic the conversation was. But I mean, like, you can always do better.
What do you think you refocused onto?
I don't know if somebody in chat can remember, but there were a couple of times I was watching, it was like, oh, it was good that Hanz brought it back to this question, or that he was able to bring this question back up again.
It's probably, how can you make school better than all other options available to parents or students?
Maybe. Oh, and then it was the thing where Demonmama would keep playing this thing where she would say like, oh, like school is really bad, so we shouldn't force people to do it. And Hanz did a good job of like reminding her, well, we said that point didn't matter, so let's move to the next thing.
When we went through the line by line, it did seem like Hanz really failed to ever get this conversation to focus on things. And the one question that he continued to bring up, which was, can we make school better than all other options, I think is a really like hyperbolic question. Like it's like, she's not going to have an answer to this, and nobody's going to have an answer to this. And this isn't really tackling the main question that he wanted to focus on, which is around mandates and whether or not we could mandate something. So for
the problem though was that like Demonmama opened this up. She said multiple times, this was a point I think that Hanz did a good job at like bringing her back to, was what would you do to incentivize school? Because when he first posed that question, Demonmama stalled for time, and she said multiple times, oh, there's a million things, there's an infinite number of things. And then when she started rattling off stuff, it was like a little bit of nonsense. And then I think she said yummy food, and I think she gives that answer like 2 or 3 times. There's a million ways that we can incentivize this. But when Hanz pushes her every single time, she never actually gives a single thing. And then I think later on her argument kind of like devolves into, well, children would never choose not to go to school, which is kind of ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, like, Hanz could have done a better job, like, doing the conversation. If I was analyzing this, I would be more harsh towards Hanz if I was analyzing this as, like, parent-child or, like, teacher, special education student or whatever, where, like, one person is clearly, like, in control of everything and the other person is just, like, a screeching banshee. Then it's like, okay, yeah, sure, like, Hanz maybe could have done a better job here. You know, maybe he could have put the straitjacket on the person here. Like, that would have made more sense, but I'm not going into this conversation, like, with assuming that Hanz has to, like, be playing both ends, like, with the ultimate level of maturity. He could have done some things better to pull it back, but I think Demonmama was, like, clearly acting in bad faith for the majority of this conversation.
What would you point to as being bad faith? So you can think that her arguments are silly. You could think that she pivoted, but where are you seeing bad faith? I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just
sure.
curious.
There's a few points. So one is, when somebody says, so I don't know if you're an essay writer, okay? Anytime somebody puts etc., it means that they're out of things to say, right? So like, for instance, when you're like, oh, well, this is a good idea because of, you know, this and that, et cetera, et cetera. You say et cetera when you're out of things to say. It's not because you have way more things you list off, right? So like, it's kind of like an analogy to that or whatever. Like Demonmama saying in the beginning of that conversation, there's a million ways that we can incentivize going to school. She never gave a single one in that entire conversation, which was kind of like the biggest part of her argument. Well, if you don't want to do mandates, how else can you incentivize it? And Demonmama didn't give a single thing, even though Hanz asked multiple times for that.
So you keep repeating she didn't give a single thing, but you noted things that she gave. You may disagree, you may say that they're not like good points. But
she said she gave one thing and she ran away from it instantly because she realized how ridiculous it sounded. She said yummy food.
That's not the only thing. I know. I feel like you're being hyperbolic, but I want to be like really specific because I'm looking at notes.
What other things did she say? I'm curious.
That you can entice students by making the learning experience interesting.
How? That's not an answer to anything.
Oh boy, we're getting into this. So that is an answer though. Like you may not find that to be a good answer, and I would agree. Like it's vague, and I'd say that free lunch is.
It's literally begging the question, right? Like if you could design a curriculum,
fair enough,
that's so interesting that kids would naturally be drawn to want to learn it. I mean, then you've solved the question with your own question, right? Like, how do we get kids to go to school? Oh, by making the curriculum so good that kids want to go and learn it. Well, okay, well, wait, how do you do that? Like, it's kind of like saying, like, how do you act like a good person? Like, oh, we'll just be like incredibly virtuous. Like, Yeah, of course. What? Yeah.
Let's be super duper clear. I don't agree with Demonmama's position. I don't think she performed well. I just think that when we look at what was the potential of this conversation? What could have been accomplished? What's the kind of conversation that we could have had?
should have went like this. Hanz should have said, what are things that we could do for an alternative of a mandate for education? Okay. And then what Demonmama should have said was education shouldn't actually be mandated. She could have said, for instance, there should be alternative paths in society for children to take if they don't want to go to school. Or she could have said we need a radically redesigned system of education where there are different paths that people can take through the education system that doesn't look like traditional school. Or maybe she should have said like homeschooling or something should be like more of an option available, or even the fucking child labor can come back and that should be an alternative to education. Or maybe education can be delayed until you're an adult and there's something. I don't know. These are all, to be clear, I'm not defending any of those arguments. You can argue back and forth with any of them. But any of those things would have been a path towards more conversation. But instead, she vaguely alluded to having millions of ways to do it. But the only thing she ever really said was yummy food. And then she started saying a bunch of irrelevant shit like, oh, well, they could go to therapy first. You're already mandated to go to therapy first. You have problems going to school. Like that's not anything about the mandate, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. So who do you think? Oh, I'm curious. Who do you think performed better in this conversation?
Like, it depends on how you're defining performance. So from my perspective, I'm looking at who was less of an obstacle to the conversation moving forward. And I would say that's Hanz, because Hanz had many more options that he could have used to get this conversation on track and refused to do that at many points. Her defending her argument, if she chooses to be slimy and whatever, which she definitely was, I just don't think that outweighs all of the failures on Hanz's part to get this point across. Like, even the question that he continued to reiterate, how can we make school better than all other options, is hyperbolic and not what you asked just now, which could have been way better.
I shouldn't have to. What I did right there is I'm treating the opponent like a dumb fuck. What I just did, I'll do what I just did as a mode of condescension. When I get to the end of an argument and I realize the other person is clueless, I might say, you could argue this way, or you could. I've done this to a lot of socialists. You could say that a co-op could work like this. You could do this. You could do that. I would never expect myself or anybody else to actually walk my adversary through the entire conversation, though. That's insane to me. Like. Do you acknowledge that you're putting way more onus on Hanz in this conversation to conduct it in a reasonable way than you are on Demonmama?
Sure. You had to remember that my goal when I'm watching this is different than your goal when you're watching this. I'm looking for a way that these two people could have easily connected. And by redefining this as education and not going to school, which she constantly focuses on, they could have probably moved forward because she offers alternatives. And if he could have said, oh yeah, I'm cool with these alternatives and I'm just in it to get kids educated, then they could have agreed because she said as much in the middle of the conversation. But every opportunity that he has to build that bridge with her, he fails to. Or he chooses to say something that's silly, like, what if no kid ever wants to go to school, right? That's
not a silly thing. He's trying to get to the meat of the matter. What do you do if a child doesn't want to go to school? But you're saying he means going to the building and not get educated.
Yes, because that's not what he says.
When Hanz is saying education system here, is it not on Demonmama do you have this written down at all that he's literally saying education system?
Whereabouts?
I linked you in Discord. You in Discord.
Let's see here.
Education system, the new one, the good one that we made, over literally anything and everything else they can do.
Yeah, I mean, there's
5.5 minutes in the conversation.
So what I'm asking is, how do we ensure that we get enough of society? Because you agree that's a terrible thing. It's if we have a portion of society that can't read or write. Yeah. How do we get them to voluntarily choose this education system, or the new one, the good one that we made?
Fair enough. Yeah, I did not get this. That's my bad.
Okay, so that didn't change how any of this conversation went. But regardless, okay, here's the next thing.
You seem to take a lot of issue when I said use force as a last effort with the superchild, who cannot function in society. They're willingly making choices.
Yeah, because you said that they should be institutionalized.
To get the help they need, absolutely. If they're a danger to themselves, they're a danger to everybody else.
Well, then I guess you and I just have different positions on.
No, but this is the last use of force.
What institutions.
What if they're gonna? What if they're gonna Roblox themselves? Would you be okay with force then?
I mean, me personally, I would take.
He did not ask her if she personally would be okay. It is obvious in the context that he is talking about using the force of the state to intervene, not if she would personally do it for her child. Do you acknowledge that is not what he asked? It wasn't, would you personally do this with your personal child? They were still having a conversation about public policy and what the government should do, right?
In context, yes.
You wouldn't let the state take children from parents when the kid says they're going to kill themselves and the parents aren't doing anything. You're really going to let that happen? Really? Wait. That's what you're dying on right now?
Hold on a second. You're saying that are we talking about like an idealized?
Pause.
I obviously
this is so bad faith. It is plainly obvious what he's asking. Notice how she starts to dance a lot here because of what he asked. She knew what she'd committed herself to, and it was a bad argument logically, and it was a loser of an argument rhetorically and optically. When I heard this in the video, I think I said at this moment, they are never going to actually address this question, and Demonmama is going to rage quit, and that is exactly what happened. I didn't pre-watch, but it's obvious with the way that she's dancing here that she doesn't want to answer it. How can you read this any other way?
Fair enough. My apologies. I concede on this one for sure. He was very, very specific here, and she was clearly going to weasel out of it, and she's forcing it to be about her personally.
Prior to this, when he brought up like the force as a last resort thing, notice how her position is changing as well. When earlier he said we should use force as a last resort, and she was like, oh, so you would institutionalize kids that are a danger to themselves? That's what they were talking about. And he said, yeah, of course. But now all of a sudden she doesn't want to use force there. So what the fuck is her position actually? If you can't institutionalize somebody, then you have no force. What is your force? Sending them like a meanly worded letter? Giving them a phone call? Like, where is your force at?
Okay. Yeah, I would agree on this last part for sure.
Okay, and then also he did say education system earlier, and it made zero difference in this conversation.
Well, I will admit that he did say the education system in the very beginning. This may seem pedantic, but then we continue to do school throughout, right? So I think this is...
But Demonmama never like clarifies between the two, so I think it's safe to assume that she's assuming both are synonymous with one another, as 99% of people would if you were talking about school versus education system. Nobody's talking about the building.
You know what, Destiny? I don't like this lady, and I think I'm done defending her. Okay. If we want to make the inference jump that that these two things are the same thing, school and education are the same thing, then I retract. I admit that I'm wrong. I admit that it may not have made a difference. This person doesn't seem to necessarily care. Fair enough.
Wow. Okay. Well,
you've done it. You've convinced me, and you've made me tired.
What else do you want to scream about?
I have a problem. All right, and it's that I'm biased. Okay, when I start a conversation like this, I really, really, really dislike Demonmama, and I really, really, really dislike her stupid fucking argument. And so I like twist and contort my brain in any way that I could possibly see that like she's getting confused or she doesn't understand or how the other person could help her. And I'm clearly overcorrecting, and this is a good example of that. But like, I don't know what to do about this. Like, I don't know how to walk this line or to like be not biased or be charitable to the one side without like necessarily overcorrecting in this way. Like, I agree that there was...
I don't know. I try to like follow as many inferences as I can in the ways that make sense to me. But I mean, like, there are times when I miss them. I mean, there are probably times when you miss them. I mean, that's a really, really complicated nuance. Like, how do you listen to an argument and figure out what both sides are trying to say, and then figure out who's doing a better or worse job? That's a really complicated thing, right? We all kind of do that on the fly in real time, and it's different for every situation.
A disappointing answer.
Well, I mean, like, you're asking me for like the key question of all debates, like, how do you remove your bias when interpreting a situation? Like, if I had the answer to that, I would be like the best Supreme Court justice. I would be like the best legislator, the best judge, the best like jury like in the world, right? That's a really hard thing to do, right?